Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being here. Another low-key painting stream tonight, guys. We're going to be continuing working on our Nemesis miniatures. If you guys kind of kept up over in Discord or on Twitter since last week's stream, I finished painting all of the intruders out of the base game. I wasn't 100% happy with them, but I was probably about 90% happy with them. They were never going to be perfect. I'm still learning, right? But I was like, you know what? They're painted. They look good. They're like, I was good. I was not upset. I think they'll be perfectly fine for playing the game and they'll stand out. Tonight, we're going to be starting in on one of the expansion sets for Nemesis. The base game comes with 6 player characters, what I keep calling hero figures, and then the one alien race, which the rulebook calls intruders. But as expansion sets, there are 2 additional alien races available for you to play against in the game. One of them is called Carnomorphs. That's going to be next week's stream. This week, we're going to be looking at the Void Seeders. Mechanically in the game, the Void Seeders are very different because rather than jump out and attack you and scratch you and claw you and bite you and wound you and physically harm you, the Void Seeders make you go insane. And so the mechanics for playing the Void Seeders on the table, very commonly you might not ever actually see a Void Seeder like wandering the ship, but their lairs are around causing hallucinations, causing you to lose sanity. And as you lose sanity, worse and worse things happen. You start attacking other players. You'll set rooms on fire while you're in them because you believe you see something. You'll physically damage the ship because you're hallucinating. All kinds of bad things happen when you start losing your sanity and climb inside your own head. So tonight, that's the race we're going to be painting. And the paint scheme that I've chosen is a purple. So this is where we're going. This is the goal for what we're trying to get to. Man, what is with the deinterlacing on that? I got to work on that at some point. That got real bad tonight for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, this is kind of where we're headed. Purple. And so the methodology is the same. The goal being to base in a dark paint, to layer it up a little brighter. We're going to wash it back down to even it out, and then we're going to come in with a very light highlight layer at the end. The miniature that you're looking at over here is my test case miniature. And this one, I'm not like unhappy with it, but I think I hit it a little too heavy on the highlight, that last layer. So I'm going to maybe try and go a little lighter on that as we go. Okay, so let me show you the colors that we're going through here. It's another Citadel line. So if you're familiar with their stuff, we're starting off here with a base of the Naggaroth. This is a very dark looking purple. Okay. Then I had another color, a layer color, one above this that I actually tried on this miniature, and it didn't make any difference, and so I've cut it out of the process. So this will be a little faster than it was last week. Hang on a second, let me shake this thing up a little bit. It's kind of got some streaks into it. Then we're moving up to this, I don't even know how to pronounce this. Kakophoni? Zaxophony? I have no idea, but it's a lighter shade of purple. So this one actually is light enough that it stands out. Once those 2 are in, we're going to wash it down a little bit with their violet wash. They're calling it Druchii or whatever the hell. And then that very, very last layer, my wife picked this color out. I had not seen it on the shelf. I had something else in my hand, and she's like, no, you want that one. They call it Dechala Lilac. It's a obviously very light purple, and that will be the kind of top layer that we go through there at the very end. So I've got to lighten up my touch with the highlighting brush, but the end result should look something like these guys. So yeah, that's the plan for the evening. The other race of aliens we did last week had 4 different types of miniatures. These guys, I'm sorry, 5. These guys only have, well, I guess they still technically have 5. The first thing that we have, and I got to pull one of these off the base. First thing that we've got to work on here, I'll do the close-up here, is this guy. This is called a lair. Actually, that's really out of focus. Let's stick with this. So this is a lair. It looks kind of like a little egg, but that's basically what it is. It sits on the board and makes a big mess of itself when it's around. Blowing those up is actually a very, very good thing if you're the human players in this particular thing. Then you have what they call a lurker. That's these little shorter dudes, right, with kind of the blade. I'm trying to get the light on them. There we go, the little bladed hands kind of coming out there. We have 6 of these guys. Then we have the bigger ones that you saw there. This guy, he's called a Whisperer. I've got 3 more of those to do. Then we have one, gotta get him off the base here. This guy is called a Stalker. He's kind of clutching some sort of steel beam overhead. That's his deal there. And then at last, the Queen miniature. You remember the last week, the Queen was the big thing on the base, and she was all over the place. This one is interesting. This one has no base, so getting it to balance up here is a little precarious. But this is called the Despoiler, a Despoiler. This is the high-end, the Queen of the Hive miniature of the Void Cedars. So this one's actually going to be a little interesting to paint because I'm going to have to like hold it by a leg while I do most of it, let it dry for a while, and then come back and try to hold it someplace different and then base kind of more of it. This one's going to be awkward, so I may actually start with this one because it's going to have to go through a little extra drying and a little extra handling that these other ones that I can fit on the prescription bottles don't have to deal with. All right, let's get started. Enough jibber jabber. Enough jibber jabber. Dull coat. Okay. All right, enough jibber jabber. Let's get going here. Anyway, I'm going to start off painting the Queen, the Despoiler, because like I said, the awkwardness of handling this miniature means I'm going to have to handle it a lot to get it coated. So I'm going to do what I can and let it dry on the tray here while I work on other things that are easier because they've got the bases of the pill bottles on them. You know, one of the things I'm discovering as I kind of do this is it's oddly relaxing. And I don't think, I've had people tell me that. Like, again, my buddy who's been doing this for years has always mentioned that to me. But I think I was always so stressed at the idea of doing this because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, right? To put it lightly. And I mentioned that last week when I was doing the first video. I had this mental image of what I want the finished miniature to look like, and it was very, very uncommon for the finished miniatures that I was working on to get to that point, and so I would get frustrated, and I'd be like, I suck at this, and I'm never going to do it again, and so I would just, to me, painting was not relaxing. It was stressful because I was working on something that I knew deep down it was never going to look like I wanted. But since discovering that I could actually get these to look like I wanted and getting that little bit of boost of self-confidence, this is oddly relaxing. We sat in here on Friday night, some friends of ours in North Carolina. We got on Skype with them using the cameras here. My wife sat at the table next to me. We put on the belt packs and we did a Skype call right here for like 3 hours just chatting with them. And while we're in here, I sat and painted. And it was glorious and it was relaxing and wonderful. And I was like, I actually, all weekend, I had to resist the urge to come in here and I mean, I did come in here and finish the previous miniatures, but I kind of had to resist the urge to come in here and start in on these, right? Because what I'm discovering about myself is that as I get into a groove with the painting, my brain doesn't want to quit. Like, it's like, okay, you're making good progress, get in there and stick with it. And so that is something that I'm going to have to fight a little bit, I suppose, as I try to turn this into Twitch content. We'll see. And also, as I mentioned earlier, one of the guys, one of my local friends that I know here is over on Discord, and he was showing pictures of the Star Wars Legion work that he's been doing lately. He's been doing it all with the Citadel contrast paints. And I've heard people talk about how easy those are to use, but I don't know very much about them. And but I think I'm going to have to learn before I get into doing the player miniatures for this game, because he made it look very easy and his end result looked really, really good. And I was like, okay, I really like this. Like, can I make stuff that looks like this? This would be awesome if I could. So I need to probably sit with him and pick his brain about kind of his methods and what he does and how he does it. And then probably bring that to the hero miniature side of the house here for Nemesis. Man, this is a real pain in the butt. I see what you mean about the base, Striker. Like, it would be great if I had some kind of base that I could, like, temporarily glue this thing to, you know? But I don't. I don't have anything. Or even just sticky tack it down. This one was really awkward to have to prime as well when I was priming it, because what I've got over here is I've got a wooden stick that I'll just take the base and I'll sticky tack things 3 or 4 at a time, and I'll go outside in the backyard and I'll spray paint primer on them. And it's real simple. But this guy just defies all of that process because, again, you can't sticky tack him to wood. You've got to. I ended up having to go get like an old Amazon box and like just set him in there, or set her, him, whatever in there 2 or 3 times, and spray it. Do it like this, turn it over, do it like that, turn it upside down, do it like this, and kind of hit it from all different angles because it's so tangly. There's so many limbs and tentacles and whatever. It is awkward, to say the least. Right. That is probably not as far as I want to take it, but since I've got to go ahead and remix, get some more purple going here, I'm going to let it sit and dry for a minute. There we go. Let's start with these layers. So these little egg guys in the Void Cedar lexicon are called layers. Again, like I said, they look like eggs, but they're not really. They call them layers. They sort of, mechanically, I'm not positive in terms of how they function. I need to play the game. I'm spending all this time painting things. This is one of the other problems I'm running into with so many of these games that require painted miniatures, is that in order to have, like, the best experience, my brain wants everything painted before I even play the game. And that's not practical always, but that's my idiot brain, right? My brain's like, oh, no, you got to have everything painted before you can play the game. Oh, I mean, we're not playing Warhammer Tournament here. They're not going to throw me out. It's my board game, okay? It's my copy. I can decide whether or not I want to have everything painted or not. And my brain's like, sure you can. Sure you can. Get right on that. Get to painting, fool. That's one reason I'm really glad for some of the games that I've backed lately on Kickstarter that don't have, that if they do have miniatures, they don't require paint, right? They're already, solid colors, they're resin cast, something that won't require me to invest any time. The game comes basically table ready for me. I don't have to invest any of this time in it. I'm glad to be developing this skill, but I look forward to not having to deploy it on every single board game I buy. Show you kind of how that one's coming out a little bit. Just trying to hit all the highlights. I'm not forcing it down in the crevices. I figure by the time I wash it, the wash is going to pool down in there anyway. And the whole point of kind of basing it in black is so that stuff stays in shadow. So yeah, kind of trying to keep it easy there. For years, I've heard people talk about how therapeutic coloring can be, right? Like adult coloring books and all this sort of thing. And I don't think I really appreciated it until I started this process. Because there's some of it is, I think everybody has a little bit of artistic brain in them, right? You go all the way back to, elementary school, when everybody art class, art time, creating colors and collages and construction paper, crayons, like that was part of your daily routine when you were in elementary school in most places. At least certainly it was when I was growing up. And I think everybody retains some of that. And I think as you get older, some of that gets lost, right? You forget the joy that brought, or you get busy adulting. God, don't get me started on adulting. And I think to some extent the painting of miniatures like this kind of tickles that little portion of your adult brain that still misses that stuff, that still relishes the joy of art and color and creation, and taking what amounts to a blank canvas, this particular miniature being a blank canvas when I start with it. It's just based in black. I can make it look like anything I want. I can make it purple, I can make it yellow, I can make it fuchsia, I can make it whatever, and making it your own, right? Taking that blank canvas and then doing something to it to make it yours. And I think adults, I know I certainly do. I certainly kind of forget. I'm trying to get in here. He's got legs in here in the middle that are a real pain in the ass, or tentacles or something. I forget kind of what the joy of that is like, right? And I think sometimes it's encouraging to maybe remember that. He's got some little bits back here too. Man, these little whisperers or just whatever these are, man, these are going to be a pain in the ass. Try not to slather it on too thick, even though I know it's going to dry. It'll dry down a little bit. I'm just trying to get it evenly applied. For me, for most of these miniatures, I've been using a 1/4-inch brush, and that has turned out really, really well for like basically everything that I've wanted to do with basing colors. That's just been the ideal brush size. The only time I use something, I have a 1/2 inch bristle brush down here that when I did the Queen, I used that because there was so much surface area. It was like, okay, I'll hit this. But for most everything else, this little 1/4 incher has been superb. One of the things about this purple, right, is that it's so dark. Once it dries, it's actually a little difficult to see it compared to the black. And I'm okay with that because it's a base color, and I'm gonna cover it up with other layers of color. But it's a little more challenging than that base green was to see. Although that base green got pretty dark too. All right, so there is one of our a lurker, based in the purple. You can see it's actually kind of challenging. There we go, got to get him in focus. It's kind of challenging to tell the difference between the black. It's there, but it's subtle, right? So the base is still black. The miniature has been based in a very dark purple over that black primer. So it's there, but it is definitely not easy to spot. I'll come back to the Queen miniature here, but I'll give you at least a quick preview. You can start to see the purple on there as well. Okay, let's move up to our now, last week we were doing the base, 2 dry brush layers before the wash. This week, I looked, the first layer paint that I bought to go over the base basically made no difference. So I'm skipping it. I've just put it back in the box. I'm dropping it entirely. We're moving up to our first dry brush layer here. So let me grab the right brush. Boop. And we'll get our little paint mixture going here. Some of the excess off. All right, I'll start in with the little layers, and we're just gonna, I've got to remember to do lighter with the dry brush. So we're gonna go very light this time. Doesn't take much. Less is more, I'm learning with the dry brushing. Less is more. Okay, let me pull this guy off. And actually, I'm gonna let it dry just a second. I'll do all 3 layers and then I'll show you that first one. I've probably got enough paint to do all 3 because it shouldn't take very much to just kind of hit this and get some texture on it. Okay, yeah, that gives it just a little bit of texture. Let me show you one of these guys in the close-up shot here. That might not work. It might not focus in. That's actually not bad. I'll raise it up just a little bit. So you can see, again, I've got the base purple, just a very light layer of that next one up just starts to bring out some of the texture. Doesn't take much. You don't need a ton of it. I literally put just enough paint on the brush, and I did all 3 of the little layers with literally one brush. I've got a little bit of paint on here. I dried it off 7 or 8 times, and then I had plenty of paint to do all 3 layers. It doesn't take a whole lot. All right, so let's start in on whatever this dude is called. I think this is a lurker. I can't remember what they're called. One thing that's nice about the Void Seeders is that it doesn't, there's less going on here. In other words, there's fewer miniatures to do. Okay, let me get a little more off. One thing that I'm noticing is always just a little too heavy-handed with those first few swipes with the Drybrush. So I'm trying to do a little better with that. Just give it a little bit of texture. Pop out all the little curves and imperfections on the cast. Make them stand out just a hair. Particularly his nasty little claws back here. And his goofy head tentacles. Now at this stage, if I'm a little heavy-handed with the Drybrush, I don't mind it so much because I am going to end up washing this down again. It'll get a little darker when I'm done putting the wash on it in just a minute. Sorry, I kind of moved it out of camera there so I could hit what I was trying to get into some of these corners. All right, so let me show you this guy here. He's actually not too bad. Maybe a little heavy-handed on that, right? Maybe a little, but again, I don't mind it so much because I'm going to wash it down and he's going to get a little darker. There we go. You can kind of start to see. Again, we're picking up some of those textures, and we're going to darken him up in just a minute. Let's put him back on his base so he can dry out for a minute. And move up to our Whisperer. My wife and I started kind of co-streaming Old Republic just recently, and we're going to be doing a little bit of that. Yeah, Justin, somebody give Justin permission real fast. Nolo, or if you're around, throw a permit to Justin so we can throw a link in. But we're going to be streaming some more Old Republic tomorrow night. We're continuing to play Space Wizards with laser swords, and then Thursday night we'll be doing boats. I think I'm going to need just a smidge more of this shade to finish up the Drybrush on this guy. And I haven't even started in on the Queen miniature, so yeah, we're going to need some more. Right now, just trying to get into all the little nooks and crannies here. Make sure we lighten up all the various important bits. Okay, I'll show you this dude now. Hold on. Kind of see where he's coming together now. A little awkward on the angle here. I have to kind of lift him up to show you, but that's after the Drybrush layer. So again, we've based him in purple, put a little Drybrush on him. All right, just again, you're highlighting the texture of the little armor bits, whatever he's got. Sorry, I'm checking the Queen miniature here to make sure I've got enough base layer on it. It looks like I do, and the few places that I might have missed something, the wash will probably give it just enough shade that you won't really notice. There are some very deep nooks and crannies that it looks like I might have missed a little bit of wash on, a little bit of base on, but probably not so much you're going to notice. The miniature is still very obviously purple, so I'll survive it. So let's mix up another little bit of that Drybrush layer. Think about it. All right, let's start on some of these legs, I guess. Glad I'm going to be washing this down. It feels a little... one of the things that I noticed when I was doing this first Drybrush layer the other night was that, I agree that you need it, but it almost felt a little too bright. I was glad that I was coming back in with the wash behind it to kind of blend it back down and darken it up a bit. And we are going to be doing that here in a minute. That's the next step. Okay. Show you where we're at with the Queen, the despoiler. After our little bit of highlighting there, a little bit of Drybrush layer. Again, you're giving it a little bit, all you're doing is you're really kind of giving it a little bit of texture. You're picking up some of the highlights, some of the little bits of armor and chitin and whatever else kind of come out. Of course, you also pick up some of the lines in the resin, the mold lines in the resin, but it is what it is. All right. All right, to the wash. Wash, 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 wash. So again with the wash, this is, you know, somebody last week was like, what is that? It's essentially a pre-made layer where it's a lot of water and a little bit of paint. It's basically colored water, almost like a watercolor paint. And you're gonna layer it on the model. And the goal here is it's gonna do two things. One, you're adding just that little bit of extra layer of paint on top of what you've already painted, okay? So it is going to darken up whatever's on there, just a little bit. And then that colored water is gonna puddle in crevices, low spots, you know, water's gonna drain into the low spots just like you would expect. And so if you have any portions of the model that have got, you know, again, crevices and low spots and whatnot, it's gonna filter in there, and where you had it based in black before, possibly based in black, depending on what you primed the miniature with, it's gonna leave just a little hint of that color down in that crevice as well. So that when you look at it, you won't be looking at the miniature and going, oh, it's black or whatever. You'll actually see the purple or the green or the blue or whatever basically throughout the whole miniature. And it's pretty easy to put on a wash, right? Like, you know, you just get the brush wet, pick it up, slather it on, just cover basically all the flat spots, and then let it puddle where it's going to puddle and let it dry. Now, the thing about washes is they do take a little while to dry. You will have to, when you wash a miniature, you will have to basically kind of set it down, take your hands off, and let it do its thing for a while. So to me, this is a process best served if you've got 8 or 9 miniatures you're working on at the same time. You can come in and wash them, and probably by the time the last one is done, you're done applying it, the first one is probably pretty close to being dry. In this instance, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wash everything down and then grab my drink and sit and chat with you guys for a few minutes while this stuff finishes drying. But like this, I felt like this guy, this is the Whisperer or whatever, the little tinier adult ones, I felt like I got maybe a little bit too much of that highlight layer on it. So it was a little brighter than I wanted it to be. But now, as I come and put the wash on it, it covers up some of that brightness. It blends it back down. It darkens it up a little bit. And so I won't say it covers up the mistake, but it kind of covers up the mistake. Like that's kind of what you're doing here a little bit. This gives you a little bit of grace. And honestly, these miniatures would probably be like, if I were to just leave them here like this, they probably would be fine. I just like that last little bit of extra layer that we came back in, that lilac layer like we talked about, right? Because this is the end result we're going for, right? This was the test miniature that I did on the weekend, and I need one more layer above the wash to get to this. And I think, like I said earlier, I think there's a little too much highlight on this guy. I'm going to try and go a little light-handed with the other ones as we go, but we'll see. I might not be as successful as I want. Okay, that's kind of dry. I mean, you can see, let me put him out here on the camera. You can see how, I mean, he's very clearly, you know, you put the wash on him, he's very clearly soaking wet, right? It's mostly water with a little bit of paint mixed in. So you pretty much have to leave these guys alone to finish drying before you can come back and mess with them again. And that's fine. That's fine. That's why when I do this, I try to set it up so that I'm doing, you know, 6 or 8 or 9 at a time, so that when I get to the wash layer, I'm not bored. I can sit here and wash, again, 6 or 8 or 9 of them, and probably by the time I'm done, the first one's ready for the last layer of paint. All right, well, let's just give it a shot and see where we land. At the end of the day, I'm not super fussed. They'll be painted. They'll look okay. Okay. Well, the good news for me is that it's only the ones that I've done so far. And honestly, if I'm honest, I'll probably leave the layers like they are. I actually kind of like it on the layers. It gives them a little bit of that slimy feel. Let me put one of these in camera so you can kind of see it, because I like it on these. I think it fits them. I think it fits the layers. Let me see if I can get that to where it'll focus in. There we go. See, for the layers, I think the gloss works. I kind of like it. They look slimy, right? But for the aliens, it's not what I want. It's definitely not a look that I want. Okay, so important lesson to learn about the Citadel washes. Make sure you shake them or they come out super mega ultra glossy, which is not what I was hoping for this time. See, I'm real happy with the coloration on this guy. I just don't like the gloss. I just despise it on this model. It's coming together okay. Fair enough, Terp. Fair enough. I volunteer as tribute. Oh, at least I didn't knock him into my glass of bourbon. I volunteer as tribute for you guys. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. I'm here to help. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Okay. Well, I'll end up trying out the matte finish idea and see if we can make that work. I trust you guys. I suspect that will be just fine for what I'm after. Because again, I'm not happy. I'm happy with the coloration. I just don't like the glossy look on some of these guys. Because I guess I've got four of these to fix then. In terms of what's left, we decided we were going to leave the layers glossy, because for those it works. These are not, that's fine for these. And I've got 5 more of the little guys to do, and I'll know better than to screw them up next time. So I've really only got the 4 kind of to fix, and if that's all it takes, and then if I can then go ahead and start putting the matte varnish, the matte finish over everything for a little bit of protection. Sounds like a good idea. And go from there. Now, so I'm not unhappy with the results. I still feel like maybe my first guy is probably my best example, just because I didn't have the screw up of the glossy. But I think it sounds like the glossy is fixable, so that's good to know. But yeah, in the end, I'm pretty happy with these guys. They came out nice. They're very obviously purple, which was the goal of the exercise, right? I wanted to make sure everything came out a nice dark shade of purple. And I feel like we're there. I just got to get that gloss. That's taunting me. Literally taunting me. It's going to make me crazy until I fix it.